skill and passion oriented. I mean, I talk with on this podcast a lot of people who have navigated their careers, and it seems like there's some sort of secret sauce between not just passion and interest, which you found in that specific subset of the discipline, but also aptitude, right? Like you had this sort of unique blend of skills that I would imagine most people in dental school did not have an engineering background, right? That could make you excel and understand it in a different way.
Well, just to give you an imagination on this issue, let's just assume that, you break your jaw here and here. Well, the jawbone itself is just hung by itself. There's a joint here, but there's nothing that hangs this bone to the rest of your body, the rest of your skull, other than some tendons. So if this piece breaks or this piece breaks, you got nothing hanging. So in order to have that supported, it's no different than a suspension bridge. And the bridge goes over, and you've got two pillar points at one spot. Well, depending on the length of the bridge, you have to be able to support it in the middle somehow. And the easiest, of course, is to put a pillar in. But what if you can't put a pillar in? How would you support it? So now you got a suspension bridge. Same concept. You're supporting the mandible with no middle pillar, and you're doing it by suspension. And so that mechanical engineering background and knowledge brings it right to this table right off the bat. No different than if you smash your cheekbone in, you got to pull it out. But how do you keep it out there? Okay, so in order that bone, because it'll just kind of collapse. It'll just kind of fall in. If you pull it back out again, the muscles of the cheek, as soon as you smile, they'll pull it back again. So again, how do you support that? And that's all mechanical engineering, and that's learning. And so in a lot of ways, my background allows me to see the picture quicker than some of my biology colleagues who study biology. And the way that they approach it and the way I would approach it is significantly different. Now the results in some cases may be the same, but I like to think my results are that much better, and obviously I've been very successful at it. And therefore, there's some of my techniques are being accepted by others. And so, yeah, that background has helped a lot. And I think I pride in that background.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is just a recurring theme with almost everyone I talk to is that, like, the things that make us different, they're often things that make us better at our work, right? If everyone has the same skill set, we're not improving, we're not innovating. I mean, the thing that makes progress in nature is randomness, is defects, actually, right?
Yep.
And if the defects or the evolution or the mutation is positive, then it sticks with the population. If it is not positive, then it'll die out. And I think in this circumstance, like where you are dealing with structural elements, like I wouldn't say they have to go as far as teaching an engineering class in your in dental school, but taking from those concepts and figuring out how to integrate them in would probably be useful in mental physics at the end of the day in terms of what can hold weight. And so, I mean, that to me, it shows to me that this is a universal concept, not just something that's specific to the data domain, which is, I think, one of the really cool things about having a conversation with you is that I get to see this acted out over the course of my entire life, your entire life, a completely different profession, and see so many common threads at the same time.
This episode of Ken's Nearest Neighbors is brought to you by Z by HP, HP's high compute, workstation grade line of products and solutions. Z is specifically made for high performance data science solutions, and I personally use the ZBook Studio and the Z4 workstation. I really love that the Z workstations can come standard with Linux, and they can be configured with the data science software stack. With the stack, you can get right into doing the data science work on day one without the overhead of having to completely reconfigure your new machine. Now back to our show.
So with your career, how it has progressed to this date, I mean, you're technically retired now. Would you have gone about it any way differently, with the things that you've learned? Or is it like, hey, I enjoyed this career, I wouldn't have wanted to do anything else?
Well, as I reflect on it, the answer to is yes and no. I mean, I love my career path and track. And I think that one step led to the next step, led to the next step. And so, it's hard to say how you would change that. And if you look at it from a pure science fiction standpoint. If you change one factor, so many other factors change. But what I would have done differently if I were to do it over again is a couple of decisions that I would, in my own mind, I would have been better suited, although you don't know if that's occurred. I mean, when I did a fellowship in Cardiff, Wales, in cleft palate surgery, and I had an opportunity to go to France to study with one of the most renowned surgeons by the name of Tessier. And I decided not to go. I'd already been away for 6 months out of the country. And
you were dating my mom at the time.
I was dating your mom at the time.
She probably wouldn't have liked that.
Yeah.
And my mom was invited to come on the show. She respectfully declined. So we're focusing on this guy here.
Yeah. And so that was one issue. And I was also running out of funds, too, to be honest about it. Because although I was getting some type of stipend in Cardiff, I wouldn't have gotten a stipend in France. So that was one decision that I regret that I didn't make. But other than that, I really don't have really misgivings about anything. I mean, I would live the same life again.
Yeah, I mean, not something.
I may want to have a daughter instead of a son. But that's a separate issue altogether.
Oh, there's a whole another can of worms that comes with that. So, well, if you were to have a daughter, what would you have named her?
In all honesty, I would push for Victoria after my mom. I mean, your mom would have had a lot to say so about that, but nevertheless, I think that she was an exceptional woman in my mind.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, it's interesting what you say about in retrospect, and I probably developed some of this mindset from you as well. But like, there's no way to know how it would have gone otherwise, right? And every decision that I've made, everything that I've done has made me who I am now. Assuming, I like who I am now, then I guess I probably wouldn't change anything because it could have turned out completely different and we never would have known what it would have been either way. Yeah. There's, from working with data, I know that like if we're running a simulation, there's hundreds of thousands, millions of times you run it, and very rarely, if you have enough variables, will they come out the same. And it's so hard to predict. Why would we hinge all of this on a single decision or anything along those lines?